Hello there, and welcome to Play the Game with Steve. Cyclops, Ultimate Guide on Understanding the Mechanics series. Alright, this video is going to take a look at Cyclops' signature cards, his Nemesis set, but most importantly, the strategies and synergies that you can find within Cyclops' cards and paired up with the different aspects. So if you're new to the channel and you like this type of content, please make sure to subscribe and put a like on this video. Comments are always appreciated. Now on with the breakdown. Alright, Scott Summers is a mutant with a recovery of 3, hand size of 6 with 10 hit points. He has the mutant trait and he says, you may include X-Men allies from any aspect in your deck. So this is something that I think most people will focus on, just being able to put all allies in his deck that have the X-Men trait. And I think that is a good way to build them. It is the most basic way to build them. But I think this is where a lot of people kind of forget and maybe don't focus on is this constant training. This action to search your deck for a tactic upgrade and add it to your hand, limits once per round. Now this is, like in Magic the Gathering, a tutor effect. So this allows you to search your deck for any tactic upgrade. Now his kit comprises 6 of them of his signature kit, but there is tactics in a lot of different aspects, and we'll take a look at those shortly. As a hero, Cyclops has a thwart of 2, an attack of 1, a defense of 2. He has the X-Men trait, and he has a hand size of 5. And then he has an action called Optic Blast, which is spend 1 resource of any type to deal 3 damage to an enemy with an upgrade attached. Now, these attachment upgrades have to be from the hero kit. Attachments like Drang's spear and Thanos' helmet and stuff like that, these are only attachments and they're not attachment upgrades. So this is important to make the difference. So you definitely have to put a card on the enemy that you want to be able to do this. If there is none, you will not be able to use the Optic Blast to do those damages. So again, it's a very powerful ability. 1 for 3 damage is very high on the efficiency cost curve. But again, it comes with a condition. All right, his signature card, Field Commander. I think this is the most thematic card in his kit. 1 cost upgrade with a title that says you take the first turn during the player phase. Now, obviously in solo, it doesn't make a big of a difference. Except that it says that each Cyclops upgrade attached to a minion loses the temporary keyword. So if you're attaching stuff to minions, you can kind of plan ahead, which I like. If you're attaching things to the boss, obviously they won't. They will still keep the temporary word, so they'll only be on the boss for a turn. Now, what's great about this card is in multiplayer, you can now become kind of like the table leader and kind of be like, all right, guys, this is what I can do. This is what we'll do. We'll coordinate our events. We'll coordinate this. And then kind of it opens up the game to some tabletop discussion. All right, I can build a deck that is very supportive and that is going to be focused on helping other people do their stuff. And because you're taking the first turn every turn, everything that you want to do, you can kind of do it before everyone else, put everything in place, and then just go in and then kind of like, all right, guys, do your thing. I've helped you. I put all the pieces in place, and then we can really have some fun. So Field Commander, for me, it is one of his best cards for multiplayers. In solo, I don't think it's a card that needs to get played. If you can put it down, but it's not something that is a priority. But in multiplayer, this is the card you want to be playing first. All right, then we have his Ruby Quartz Visor, 2 cost upgrade that says it generates a resource for your Optic Blast ability. So that's awesome. So you get a free 3 damage as long as you're placing an attachment upgrade on a minion or the villain. So that's fun, you know, it's free. And it gives that attack, piercing, and range. So you avoid retaliate and you get through the tough status cards, which is fantabulous. Especially with the Mutant Genesis game, every boss has tough. So Cyclops being able to use his visor to just go through those is just brilliant. All right, then let's talk about some of his tactic cards. All right, so The first one is my favorite, priority target. You can attach to an enemy, max 1 per enemy. It's a 0 cost temporary attachment and says when the attached enemy is defeated, the player who defeated it draws 2 cards. So again, if Cyclops doesn't need the card draw, you can attach that to a minion. All right, you're going to take care of this minion. Can you do something with 2 extra cards? Yes. Who needs the extra cards? And that for me is just super nice. And the fact that it's a 0 cost is great because you can just fetch it on Alter Ego and just play it down for free. That for me is one of his best ones. Then it's very good here if you are going to go to hero form. He has the practice defense. The enemy gets -1 attack. So not too good on the minions, but on the villain, giving the villain -1 attack for all of his activations is beautiful, especially in multiplayer. So that's going to result in a lot less damage that your allies and your other heroes are going to take. So this is a card that you definitely want to take advantage of. And then the final tactic that we have is, again, this is the game ender card, the exploit weakness. So max 1 per enemy, temporary. Obviously, this is another one you want to attach to a boss or a very strong minion. And it says, increase the amount of damage attached enemy takes from each attack by 1. So then your Optic Blast deals 4 damage now. I'm like, wow, okay, so that's an extra damage for 1 resource. Beautiful. And then every subsequent attack from allies, from events, everything that you are dealing is going to deal that extra 1 damage. And even in a multiplayer game, it adds up fast. Even in solo play, this adds a lot of damage. So this is the game ending card when you want to start playing those. So the next is the synergies with the Ricochet Beam. So we already saw some of the attachments, and Ricochet Beam plays off of those. This is a 2-cost event, attack, superpower, attack, 3 damage to an enemy, and then 3 damage to an enemy with an upgrade attached. So that's always fun. So it's 2 for 6 damage. Really cool, very nice, efficient. Again, plays off of the attachments that we just saw. And then his big attack called the Full Blast. Again, this is a conditional attack. Cyclops, when you use your Optic Blast ability, exhaust Cyclops. This attack deals 8 additional damage and gains overkill. So to be able to play this card, you have to pay the 1. Then you have to pay the 1 to be doing the Optic Blast. So you got to spend 1 for Optic Blast. Then as an interrupt, pay 1, exhaust Cyclops, and then do the additional damage. So it's 2 costs to do 11 damage, which is crazy good. But again, the condition, the enemy that you want to attack, either the minion with an attachment or the villain has to have an attachment to be able to play this card. So again, conditional, but very, very powerful. Now, this is the key card. This is what makes Cyclops unique. And this is the card that if you want to build Cyclops differently and not just throw a bunch of allies in your deck, this is the card that makes all of Cyclops possible. This is the combo enabler. Now, Tactical Brilliance, 2-cost event thwart. Remove 3 threat from a scheme and choose a tactic card in your discard pile and add it to your hand. So when you look at this at first, you're like, oh, cool, I'll just bring back one of my tactical upgrades. But there's tons of events that you can recur and abuse that have the tactical trait. And we're going to take a look at those in the different aspects. So, of course, you can bring back some of his signature tactic cards, or you can bring back some of the aspect tactic cards that you can use on multiple occasions. And this is where that card is very fun. And because of the recursion, again, I've mentioned this many times before, any character that has access to recursion to be able to play some of those powerful cards over and over is going to have a very big advantage in this game. And then finally, just to continue on with the recursion, obviously the Phoenix is his signature ally with 2 thwart, 2 attack, 3 cost, 3 health. Psionic X-Man response after Phoenix enters play. Choose a Cyclops card in your discard pile and add it to your hand. If I'm in the beginning to mid game and I'm still struggling for a little control, most of the times Tactical Brilliance is just gonna be my go-to card when I'm looking to end the game. Full Blast is the card you want to go back and get to be able to close out the game. Moving on to his obligation, which is Lost Visor. Give this to the Scott Summers player. Make sure that you remember, it does not allow you to flip to Alter Ego. You just give it to the Scott Summers player. So, and then you search your deck, discard pile, and play area for the Ruby Quartz Visor and place it face down on the discard. And Cyclops cannot attack. And this is something I think a lot of people forget. So you cannot play attack events. So when it says you can't attack, you're blinded. So this makes perfect sense. And even me, I think I forgot this this little clause. So again, always important to read the cards. Cyclops can't attack. He's blind. So you have to go down to Alter Ego and then exhaust Scott Summers to bring back the Ruby Quartz Visor to your hand. If you're like me and Shadows of the Past is your best friend in this game, Mr. Sinister is going to come out. He is a 1 scheme, 1 attack, 6 health minion, an elite marauder. He's got Stalwart, Toughness, and Villainous. He has a boost ability if you are stunned, and if you are already stunned, you take 2 damage. Giving him Stalwart and Toughness, again, versus Cyclops, I think was a necessity. So but if you have your Visor, you're just kind of melting through him, which is very comic book accurate, because if you remember the 90s cartoon in the X-Men, Cyclops used to blast him with his optic blast, and then Mr. Sinister couldn't regenerate. So I think I like that, how they put that through in the cards, like he can go through his toughness and all that stuff. So I think it's very cool. It's a good nemesis. 6 health is kind of hard to deal with. So you can't just do an optic blast on him. You'll have to do an optic blast and maybe a ricochet shot or something like that to be able to try to take him out. His nemesis nemesis obligation is the genetic manipulation. It has 2 per player with a amplify icon. That means all the boost icons are +1. When defeated, you'll search the encounter deck and discard pile for gene therapy and reveal it. So let's go see what gene therapy is. There's 2 in his kit. It is an attachment that gives +2 attack. You attach to the enemy with the lowest printed attack and without a copy of gene therapy. If you can't, this is going to gain surge. So if there is no minions when you defeat that, you are going to get a surge card, which means it's going to happen right away. And a force interrupt. When the attached enemy attacks, the attack gains overkill and piercing. And at the end of that attack, you discard gene therapy. Yeah, just the +2 attack, and it just goes away after that. You'd think that maybe it would grant invincibility. So I think there's a little bit lacking in this card. It could have been a little bit better. Kind of like what the Marauders have, like that attachment that says they can't take damage and they have to attack, and then you get rid of this. I think that could have been added and it would have been fine. You know, it gives a very powerful attack. I think that would have been a little bit more thematic for me. And then finally, concussive force. Treachery. When revealed, Alter Ego. If Sinister is in play, he schemes. Otherwise, you place 2 threat on the main scheme. And in Hero, he will attack you. Otherwise, you take 2 damage. So again, a very good nemesis set. All in all, I do appreciate the flavor of this. All right, now what is Cyclops' best aspect? It won't come to a surprise to anyone when I say leadership is Cyclops' go-to aspect. There is so many tactic cards in leadership to be able to take advantage of that it is a definitely no-brainer. It makes sense. Leadership, tactical, it makes sense that leadership has the most to offer. Now, if just for fun, if you want to take advantage of his ability that you can add X-Men from any aspects, between the 4 aspects and the basics, there are actually 25 X-Men allies available to play, and you can play them all. So you could have a deck with 25 allies, and that would be fine. It would be very, very entertaining to see, to watch. What would that look like? What would you do with a deck with 25 allies? To be honest, I'd probably run 23, and then I would cut Forge and Beast. Beast going to get you a resource that you're not going to run, and Forge getting a support, X-Men support. I wouldn't run those. Those 2 I would cut. But yeah, and then just add 23 allies in your deck with the Triskelion and Utopia, and boom, you're set. No double resources, no nothing. Just like, let's go. Let's go. X-Men unite and beat down. All right. But standing away from that, let's go and explore some of the tactical ways to play Cyclops in leadership. All right. So the first one would be with the tactic called sneak attack. So if you want to take advantage of sneak attack, as a tactical upgrade, this is what you should do. These are the allies that I would include if you're going to be running a sneak attack tactic kind of deck. Psylocke, because she can come in, she can confuse the boss. Rock Slide, he can come in, has a 3 damage. Dazzler comes in, can confuse the enemy. Beast comes in, fetches you a double resource, and then you can do some other stuff. Storm comes in, removes 4 threat, or moves 2 threat, and then removes 2 threat. And those allies with the sneak attack are just so easy to play and have an immediate payoff, which is great. Then you can even go one step further. So using that the sneak attack strategy, combining with cards like Last Stand, Go Down Swinging, or Save the Day, depending if you're trying to focus more on damage with your leadership build, or if you're trying to be more the threat control guy, you can definitely add some of these cards to maximize the efficiency of what you're about to play. So again, this little set combo here works extremely well with this. So this, you can build your entire deck focusing on high cost allies with the sneak attack, and then with the go down swinging and try to close out a game fast. Again, these are all tactics. So with the tactical genius and tactical brilliance, you would be able to bring that back, bring back your sneak attack, bring back your go down swinging or your last stand. So you can combine that, and then you can build a deck for Cyclops that really just revolves around these types of combos. And it is amazing. If you're more of a caring leader, and again, you want to play a buttload of allies in your deck, maybe To Me, My X-Men is more your cup of tea. Again, this is a tactic card, so again, available to find your way back to your hand on multiple occasions. Lets you to search for the top 5 of your deck for an X-Men ally, put it into play, and then you bounce it back to your hand at the end of the phase. So some of the best allies, obviously, to play into that strategy. Beast, the fact that he comes into play, fetches you a resource, again, just too easy. Professor X, who allows you the confusion or to ready or to stun. Again, a lot of good effects. And bringing Professor back multiple times. He can thwart for 3 as well. And just being able to recur him with the that To Me, My X-Men is just brilliant. Then we got, obviously, Mirage, who can come in and confuse and then stun an enemy who's got lower thwart. What is it? Wait, whose scheme is less than her thwart. So yeah, so a minion or even a boss that schemes for 1. She's really, really good. She can stun for free. And then obviously we got more confusion with Psylocke. We got Dazzler again that have the same thing, that they come into play effects. We have Blindfold that helps with deck manipulation. And then we have Forge, who can just go and get some of the good X-Men support and then just come right back to your hand and fetch you another one for the next time for the next turn. So again, this is very cool. And remember, To Me, My X-Men comes back after the phase ends. That means you have already drawn your card. So this effectively gives you an extra card in your hand. So that is very, very fun. So that is how that plays out. So again, this is very cool. And if you don't want to lose your allies, or you can just do some stuff, you can always add some teamwork to that. So it kind of really flows into that aspect build where you're adding a couple things. Your allies and heroes are just kind of working together, which I love. And To Me, My X-Men kind of feels into that kind of build strategy. Obviously, there's more allies. You can go with allies that have a higher attack, like Colossus or Rock Slide, or even Wolverine, who has an attack of 3 with piercing. So you have a lot of options for these allies that you can just kind of put down and use teamwork with, just to increase your stats. And then again, in any direction, either thwarting or in attacking. So this is a very, very cool tactical build for Cyclops. If you're playing into a scenario with multiple minions and you want to play a cutesy deck that's pretty fun, try the Air Supremacy tactic here. I know it kind of feels weird because Cyclops is not aerial on his own, but if you include allies like Pixie, Banshee, Angel, and Storm in your deck, that gives you 4 allies that have the aerial trait that are X-Men. And also with this tactic is you can choose any number of them and then you can deal 3 damage per character without having to exhaust your allies. So they can still deal their damage or do some thwarting to help you. So combining Air Supremacy with some of these allies, very, very cool. If you're also looking to do some fun things to keep those allies in play, adding the card Ready for Action to give those allies tough status cards, very, very cool. So Air Supremacy can deal 3, 3, 3, and 3, so 4 instances of 3 damage. Again, if you're playing in a multiplayer setting, this type of combo is pretty fun to set up, and it's pretty efficient once you start pulling off these Air Supremacies and just like managing the board. I'm like, all right, Flyers, attack! And this is what I like. And again, playing off as well the Ready for Actions, so you can keep those allies as well to block. And this is all for some low costs. Once these allies are out, it's just fun times for Mr. Cyclops. So that's another synergy that you can definitely have some fun with. All right, and then we have, again, the ultimate recursion strategy, because these are tactic cards. So having the ability to go fetch a rapid response, especially from your alter ego side, so you can know what you're going to go. So you can pair some of that strategy here, adding a few rapid responses to that. Unfortunately, regroup you can't go and tutor for, but you can always bring back with your tactical brilliance. So again, so there's ways to combo off and make sure that you can pay off the regroup and the rapid response, especially with allies like Professor X or Beast, that all have these really fun effects to just fetch you some really good cards and give you the tactical advantage you need in leadership. And again, if you're going to be playing some of those cards, there's also a couple of other upgrades here that we haven't talked that don't really fit into this strategy, but are always good to mention. Coordinated attack and obviously lead from the front. So if you have the most allies, obviously you play this on yourself and you can bring it back. Giving all of your board +1 attack and +1 thwart can make a huge difference in a game. And for 2 resources, once you have 4 or 5 allies on the table, that's a lot of extra damage. 2 for 5 damage basically, or 2 for 5 thwart, which is incredible. There you go. So those cards again have with the tactical trait can be recurred. So that is it for the leadership strategies here. Again, so much potential, and you can kind of mix and match. And when I do some gameplays, I'll try to show you a couple of different iterations of Cyclops in leadership, so for you to be able to take advantage. Again, we haven't even talked about any of the basic cards that you could also include in those, but we're going to see those in just a minute. So stay with me. Let's go take a look at another aspect. All right, let's talk about aggression next. Now, Cyclops and aggression doesn't really feel natural. Why? Because there's not that many tactics that are available. Well, let's see what we can do with what we have. So we have counterattack that was introduced in the Black Widow pack, and that kind of feels like a Nambo, right? It says after you take damage from an enemy, you discard counterattack and deal equal amount of damage to that enemy. So that kind of feels like an eye for an eye, pun intended. Okay, but again, why is that a Nambo? Because, well, Cyclops only has the 10 health. Taking a bunch of damage is definitely not a synergy that is going to pay off. Or can it? Can we use these to really make Cyclops efficient? All right, how do we do that then? Okay, well, let's take a look at the other tactic card that's available, Marked. Mark says, attached to a minion, max 1 per minion, attacks against attached minion gain overkill. Now, this is where we're going to focus on overkill. So first things first, okay, well, Steve, you need minions for that to work. All right, so what cards do we have that can guarantee minions? Well, we have Looking for Trouble, and we have Angela. So adding a couple of copies of that in our deck, of Looking for Troubles and Angela, that's 4 cards. One that removes threat, gets us a minion, and one that just fetches for a minion when she comes into play. So that can kind of guarantee that we get a minion. Then we have our Mark that we can go tutor for in Alter Ego. That makes a lot of sense. Okay, perfect. Now, what kind of payoffs do we have off of this? All right, well, there is some cool payoffs that we can play off. We can pay off with the follow-throughs. This means that all the excess damage is going to get increased by 1, and we can add up to 3 copies of this in our deck. All right, cool. All right, well, is there any good other synergies? If you combine this with the Hone technique, so when you play aggressive events, because Cyclops only has 2 attack events in his deck, so he's not, if you're going to be playing aggression, you're going to need some high power attack cards. Okay, cool. Like what? Well, let's see if we can add some card draw to our mix. So adding No Quarter, if you're playing with a physical and a mental, will deal 6 damage, and all of the excess damage will net us cards. So this with the follow throughs and the Mark, not only is we're not just wasting the damage now with the No Quarter, we are actually dealing damage to the boss, and we will be drawing extra cards. So that is numero uno. Now, if we're going to pay that off even more, why not try to remove some threat? Again, we can go up to a 9 damage and have some extra fun with that. So these are all cards that kind of synergize really, really well. You don't want to really run a lot of allies in that deck. You'll probably want to run a lot of the red cards mostly, because you want to be able to pay off the No Quarters. But then, well, Steve, you only have like 3 copies of that. Yes, you're right. But then we also have a tactic called Plan of Attack that says that you can kind of go and fetch that and try to look for some of your attack events. So then that's really cool. So now you can just look at your top 4 cards, 7 if you're an Alter Ego, and get one of those attack events to start paying those off. And again, you said counterattack and taking damage wasn't really our thing. Well, why not heal right back up after doing one of those massive into the phrase, and then just heal right back up to 10, 12 if you have an endurance with that. Now, again, we can increase that damage even more if we're playing with the aggressive energy, or if we're using cards like Warrior Skill. So those are like cards that we can add to our deck to increase all the damage we do. And again, because we have the marks, we can do that all in overkill. So effectively, we don't want to swarm ourselves with minions, but if we have 1 minion and we just focus on that guy, boom, and then just get that and rinse and repeat, find another minion, go through the minion with tons of overkill, we can have a lot of fun here with Cyclops in aggression. So that is pretty much the only synergies that I was able to find with the tactics upgrade. Obviously, there's different ways you can play Cyclops in aggression. You can go with the team, which is the team attack, which is, again, good for any character. But this, I really felt like I could really play off of the tactics and all of that. So that's my suggestion for aggression, and I'll show you how it looks like when we play the game. All right, now let's take a look at I think the weakest aspect for Cyclops is 100% protection. And I'm a big proponent of protection. I love protection on many of its forms. The reason I think Cyclops is very weak in protection is it has a few cards. There's only 5 tactical cards in protection. So that is one of the cases. And 2 of them are, not completely, one of them is completely useless. The leading blow, it is a tactical non-bow because he has 1 attack. So this is never going to trigger. He's never going to ready. It makes no sense to play this card. The other one is the defensive stance. It is a defensive upgrade, which again, but it's cost 2. So actually a true cost of 3 to play down, just to prevent 3 damage once. For me, it's just, these cards are definitely non-bows for Cyclops. Now, where it could be fun though, you do have the pin down, so you can kind of control some of the minions that are on the table. It only works if there's minions, so again, it's not super reliable. What I do like is the perseverance, and this you can kind of go fetch back with tactical brilliance, which kind of makes sense. But where it's super fun, where you can have a lot of fun with Cyclops in protection, is if you are running Stand Together, and you're like, well, Steve, Stand Together, that makes no sense. All right, so again, this is for a multiplayer setting. Stand Together is a great card that you can play in multiplayer, that when an enemy attacks, you can just use a Guardian and an Avenger. And some of the best Guardians and Avengers we can use for this is Victor Mancha and Starhawk, which are 2-cost allies, super cheap to play. And then we can ask our friends to help us pay for Stand Together by exhausting these 2 allies. Victor Mancha also takes 1 less from an enemy attack. So if if there's minions in play and stuff like that, Victor Mancha can just kind of always take the 1 damage and then be like, whatever, villain attack, let's go. So that is kind of how you would want to play that in a multiplayer setting. And then if you're playing with Guardians and Avengers in a typical scenario, you should definitely see our game. We didn't have Cyclops at the time, but because that would definitely be something I would have added to the deck or to the play group. And we played against Hela with the galactic artifacts. So this is all stuff that just increases her schemes. As for all the she gets +1 for everything in the victory display. So she was attacking something, I think, 1 point for like 15. It was just insane. And we're just using Stand Togethers and like, here, take 15 back in your face. So that was super fun. But in solo play, all right, what can you have some fun with in solo play? Now, in solo play protection for Cyclops, here's the one place where I think he can really shine, and this is with a Mutant Protectors deck. Because you can include so many allies with Cyclops, so including some of the really fun allies, obviously like Nightcrawler, he's on the card, you should include him. So you would put him as the blocker, and this would be like for multiplayer. And this kind of just cheats in an ally. Any ally that has a tough status card that is an X-Men. So looking at, I think, Colossus. I think we have Armor in protection. There's a few of these allies that are pretty fun that you can kind of just cheat out, and they already have a tough status card. So for one, playing that, they just lose their tough, big dip. Polaris that comes in, and she can come in, she can just put a tough on herself, or Rock Slide. So there's a bunch of allies that we can kind of run with that Mutant Protectors synergy. The problem is this is a defense card instead of a tactic card, so it's hard to just have it in the right time. So, but again, it's one way to play Cyclops. It doesn't need to be super efficient. It is just a strategy because I think it's a strategy that would work with Cyclops because he has access to so many allies from the different aspects. So again, every character doesn't need to be amazing in every aspect, but this is a way to play him in solo that I think can be efficient enough to be able to win you a game. All right, now the final aspect, Justice. All right, this is probably my second favorite way to play Cyclops is in Justice. Leadership obviously has the most potential, but Cyclops in Justice is just phenomenal. There is so much control you can get with Cyclops in Justice, and there's so much recursion because of a few tactic cards that are in Justice. So obviously the only upgrade we have is the Befuddled. That is, again, I don't even play this. Even if I was playing Injustice, it is not a card I would include in my Justice deck, just because I'm like, it doesn't really have a tremendous impact. It's okay. What I love with Cyclops is to combine him with the shield trait. Now, being able to play Homeland Interventions over and over just for 0 to remove 6 threat by exhausting 3 cards. Putting in cards like Monica Chang, and then just having those surveillance teams just there, neutralizing threat. In solo, it is so much control, and then obviously global logistics. So being able to just fetch out some upgrades and then just play off of Scott Summers, being like in a command center, being like the director of SHIELD, and just kind of just giving everyone orders and like, oh yeah, let's just do this. And then global logistics, let's take a look at what the cards are here. Again, he has so much thwarting potential with his tactical brilliance, brings that to homeland intervention, can neutralize a side scheme like that. It's just so good. I actually have a video on this deck I built a while back. I think I put a what if. I put it in my what if series. What if Scott Summers was an agent of SHIELD or something like that? I can't remember who I played against. It's been a while. But this, yeah, these global logistics and just playing a SHIELD strategy with Cyclops is extremely efficient. I played, who did I play this recently with? Oh yes, we played, I was playing with Dean from the US. He came to Montreal for for some family stuff. And then, yeah, we played together, and then I was just managing threat like a beast in a 3-player game, just with the homeland interventions, recursions, with the tactical brilliance, flipping up once in a while, bringing those back. So removing like 9 threat for like 2 cost. It was just so good. It was just so good. So good. Anyway, so I'll build a deck for this, but again, Scott Summers' strategy here, but just focusing on that, just add some shield cards, add the meditation so you can just exhaust and pay stuff for free. It's just very efficient, it's very fast, and it's very good. It's some good control, and when you're ready, you just flip on the switch, and then these run each other, and then you just go in and go for damage with Cyclops after that. And it's just so good. All right, and then let's go take a look at now the basic cards that you want to include with Cyclops builds. All right, let's take a look at some of those basic cards that are must-haves in your deck. So as upgrades, some of the fun ones you can include, obviously a Plan B. This is a great one to add to your aggression deck. If you have an extra card, there you go. And this is, you can tutor it right away, so that's easy to play. And then you can add some to any player's deck. So if you want to deck thin your deck, you can add 3 Plan Bs in your deck, and that's just like, oh, here's a Plan B for you, here's a Plan B for you, here's a Plan B for you, and it's super thematic because you know what? He's Cyclops, he's the leader. So adding this to multiple players, I think is just brilliant, brilliant, brilliant. Then we have Civic Duty. So Civic Duty is another great tactic here. It works well with Cyclops in Justice or in any aspect. Again, you can include 3 of these in your deck. These are tutorable upgrades. So again, from his alter ego side, you can go and fetch this 1 a turn and just start building this. And then if you can find a way to ready Cyclops multiple times, obviously he's got that, the one with Jean Grey, his team up card with Jean Grey that allows him to ready. So this is a great way to give him a +3 thwart. If you're playing Justice, he can go really, really high. And that could lead to some really nice combos here with the Civic Duty. Aside from that, Assess the Situation is probably my favorite card to play. When I was playing my Justice deck, that with the tactical brilliance, I'm like, I'm going to play my Assess the Situation, give myself a +1 hand size. And then I'm going to play tactical brilliance, remove 3 threat, and then give myself another +1 hand size. It's so good. So then my Cyclops either has a hand size of 8 in alter ego or 7 in hero form. So that leads to some crazy, crazy good synergies with him. One tactic card that isn't really optimal for him, it is the beat 'em up. Again, it is not an attack, so even I was like thinking, oh, maybe an aggression would be good, but no, because it's not an attack, It's just a tactic. It deals a damage to the villain and each minion engage with you. So there's no way to pump it up, which would have made it super fun in aggression. But it is just, I think, one of those dead Marvel Champion cards that don't really work unless I'm playing against Ultron, and this is a card that I might need in a pinch, right? So if I'm playing Ultron, I get Tactical Brilliance, go beat him up, get rid of all the drones in front of me. That's where that card kind of has its very limited shining moment. All right, so those are some of the cards here. These are the next ones are just cards that you definitely want to add to a Cyclops deck. X-Men Instruction. If these are alter ego actions, right? So you have to be Scott Summers to play these ones. So X-Men Instruction, shuffle 2 allies. It's a no-brainer. If you're playing a bunch of allies, you want to just be able to recur those allies. And if you have the X-Mansion and play draw card. Mutant Education, again, this is another recursion mechanic for Cyclops to recur. If you're still building and trying to establish board control of Tactical Brilliance. But if you're trying to finish off the game, you can always shuffle up your full blast. And then just, maybe draw it right away and then flip up and then kind of just go in for your big damage cards. So that for me is like some of the key cards for him. X-Gene as well. That pays for every one of his events. So his superpower, his ricochet, his tactical brilliance. So it pays for 6 of the cards that he wants to play. So these cards make the most sense, right? And then as support cards go, you definitely want that X-Mansion if you're going to be playing those Instructions and Mutant Academy and Mutant Education. You want the Utopia. You want a Cyclops to have 4 allies and be able to ready some of your allies to do double duty. And then Moira McTaggart, again, more card draw. If you're able to go down back and forth from alter ego to hero. So these 3 support cards are just kind of like no-brainers here for our friend Scott Summers, the Cyclops. And that pretty much wraps it up, guys, for this ultimate guide to Cyclops. I really hope this is going to help you think outside the box when you're building Cyclops. What kind of strategies do you want to use? Where can I take my character in a unique direction and still have a very fun and cool deck to play that I've not tried before? Or do I just want to just throw in allies and just play off the allies? Or do I want to play off the tactics? And this is where I love Cyclops, where I can really focus on being a tactician and just bringing that aspect of that character to life with the gameplay that I'm going to try to show off. So thanks you all for watching, and remember to just have some fun and play the game. Good night, everyone. Bye-bye.